Hello, BookTube. I'm feeling a little bit better this last 24 hours, 26, 27 hours. I've been feeling very much under the weather for the last week, and I want to thank all of you. As usual, I could start every video by thanking all of you, how wonderful you've been. Tons and tons of emails. I'm at st.donoghue at gmail.com. Tons and tons of emails, very, very adorably, tons and tons of clearly non-scientific folk remedies of what will surely fix things, but also tons and tons of comments. People don't know each other, all saying the same thing, which is, take it easy, we'll be here, we're not going anywhere. It's nice to feel a little bit on the mend. That certainly is nice. And as usual, you feel a little bit like that and you want to overdo it. So I immediately thought, well, let's do errands. Let's go out and about. But it is dark and it is pouring down rain here in Boston. Just in Boston, it is pouring rain. I can't really complain about that. I would like to, but I can't, because the rest of the middle part of the country is being hit by serious cold. A weird, freakish influx of cold from the Arctic is blasting the middle of the country. I'm studying all of my models, trying to figure out if that is coming here. I really don't want that to come here, but nevertheless, that also tempers my complaining. And also, a gigantic typhoon is bearing down on Japan. It's probably striking Japan by now. I haven't really kept up, but when I say gigantic, it's historic in size. So, so anyway, the long and the short of it was, I saw that it was just bucketing down rain, so I didn't go on any errands. Instead, a very nice part of my life right now is that part of my errands came to me. I got another mail haul, and I wanted to go through it with you because it's full of boxes, and those are always fun. Mail hauls are fun just in general. I got all this stuff. It came in a tub. The young woman who drives the mail truck rang the bell. She doesn't stick around when it's inclement weather, but she does ring the bell to let me know, and today I was very glad she did, because otherwise this stuff would have been soaked. But when I was looking at it, when I went out there, onto the porch to lug all this stuff in, and it was just, the rain was just battering the sidewalk, battering the bushes. My sparrows they're extremely sullen today. It really takes the topspin off them. They can't go foraging for food when it's raining this hard. They have to just sort of sulk around in the lilac tree waiting for me to feed them. And I always make a point when it's like this of feeding them a lot more often, because they don't have any other food. They're not hunting for food at all. And I hate the thought, as annoying as they are, I hate the thought of them going to bed hungry. So, but when I was looking at all that, I just shuddered in horror, remembering that for years and years, during the Open Letters Monthly years, right now I'm an editor at Open Letters Review, which is the inheritor of the mantle of Open Letters Monthly, where I was the managing editor for 10 years, also an online literary review. And for most of those years, Open Letters had a post office box in Kenmore Square, about 100 feet from Fenway Park. And I had to trek there in all weathers. In the summer, in the snow, in rain like this, I had to trek there all the time. Whenever I had any free time, I had to go over there, because the sheer volume of mail that I got would swamp the box otherwise. I don't like to think about that. I don't know why I waited as long as I did to have everything transferred here. But as it is, we have some mail to go through. A second mail haul for today. So we'll start with this top one here. We'll finish off with the boxes. But let's see what we have here. Okay. Okay, the first one is a finished copy. I think we saw this already. This is coming out in a week. This is by Paul Davies, and it is The Demon in the Machine. The hidden webs of information and how they are solving the mystery of life. An inconvenient reality lies at the heart of the modern science. Despite dazzling advances in biology, nobody knows what life really is or how it started. Okay, we have a pretty good idea. Abiogenesis is not the impenetrable mystery that it was even 50 years ago. The party line is that, for all its amazing properties, life can be explained by known physics and chemistry. But as celebrated theoretical physicist and popular science writer Paul Davies shows us in this book, this reductive outlook could not be more wrong. Taking us to an interdisciplinary realm so new it has no name, Davies argues that an answer is at last in sight, bound up in the connective tissue that is information. As Davies reveals, while organized information may seem like just an abstract concept, its power heralds the next scientific revolution. Information is in fact the fuel that runs life and will force us to fundamentally reconsider the nature of life itself. I'll be reading this right away, but that some of that comes dangerously close to modern young Earth creationism, the shill that is known as modern young Earth creationism, the foremost charlatans whose books I have been potting for 15 years. Their foremost charlatans say only intelligence produces information, and that abiogenesis is therefore impossible. That the complex cellular mechanisms of the human body, for instance, they always do that. They always say the complex cellular mechanisms of the human body as if life started with humans. Those complex cellular organizations couldn't possibly have happened by random chance, is the argument that they always say. And they hang a lot of emphasis on the word information. So we'll see. I haven't read this yet, so we'll see. I'm assuming, if the author's a popular science writer, I'm assuming that he doesn't go a full book of Genesis. Well, I'm hoping that he doesn't. If he does, if he says, look, ordinary chemistry and physics simply do not explain this, but fortunately there is an explanation, and it's this 2,000-year-old piece of mythology that I happen to favor, not the 20,000, 2,000-year-old pieces of mythology that I don't happen to favor, the one that I do happen to favor. That's my explanation. That you don't have an explanation for how this happened, for how life started recreating itself and organizing itself and creating all sorts of biological information, genetic information. You don't know the exact details of that. Turns out I have a good explanation. And I know his name, and I know what days of the week he likes you to work, and I know that the one thing he likes more than anything else is for you to bow the knee. I'm hoping that that is not anywhere near this book. I can't imagine that it would be. But if it does that, if the author does that, if he flies under false pretexts and does that in chapter 3, they always wait until chapter 3. Something about the Trinity, I think. If he does that, well, then I'll pot him too. I'll just hope for the best. I'll read it tonight and see, because it's right on the list. Although, if these boxes are as enticing as they appear, they might command everything. Oh no! Oh, poor David Murphy. He can't catch a break. There was a BookTube channel, David Murphy, and I mentioned him a couple of times because I keep getting his books. He is a finance wonk. I think that's the kindest way that I could put it. He's a finance wonk. And I just got into the habit of sending him every finance book that I get. I get a bunch of them. And he's turned in some really good reviews. And the amazing thing about the reviews he's turned in is that I can tell, I have done this many, many times, that they are in a patch on the stuff that he could do if he kept doing it. It could be revolutionary, genius, the type of person that the whole reviewing world waits to see explain this new hot economic book. We shall see. But he's not getting any rest from me. He's getting books in the mail all the time. Here's the finished copy of Thomas Philippon's The Great Reversal, How America Gave Up on Free Markets. I believe Noam Chomsky would say that America's never had free markets. That's always been a lie. They've always been state markets. But who knows what David Murphy would say? He doesn't grace us with videos anymore. I'll have to email him. As Democrats and Republicans clash daily about the nation's economic discontents. Well, that's a blast from the past, isn't it? They don't anymore. As once again, for the third time in my life, the country is entirely embroiled in impeachment scandal. Many impeachment scandals in this case. I remember once in, I think it was Hannibal by Thomas Harris. In the middle of that book, he makes an offhand reference to the fact that when an impeachment scandal comes to Washington, all other business stops. Republicans and Democrats were arguing about the matters economical. Now they want to know what Rudy Giuliani was doing in Ukraine. Not that they shouldn't. They should want to know that. But so this book is written by one of the most respected financial economists in the world. Is there another kind of economist? again, I wish David Murphy were still among us. Combines powerful storytelling with data to show that most of these people are missing the elephant in the room. American markets are a mess and getting worse. Once the most competitive, they are increasingly rigged for the benefit of the biggest corporations. Meanwhile, the European Union is beating America at its own game, doing what we used to do to keep internal markets competitive for the benefit of ordinary citizens. Okay, plenty of stuff for him to sink his teeth into. So this is late October. I do believe that I sent him the advance copy of this, but if I've got a reviewer who's doing me the favor of reviewing recondite stuff that I would otherwise have to study in order to write about, then they'll get both. They'll get the advance copy to get to work on it, the finished copy in case they want to keep it. And that applies, I should say, to all of you as well. It's not just David Murphy, this mythical David Murphy. If you've got a specialty, a hobby horse subject, something like that, those of you who are new to the channel might not have any idea what I'm talking about. I am an editor at Open Letters Review. We are an online literary journal with an extensive pedigree. We are the latest incarnation of Open Letters Monthly. And Open Letters Review has a masthead with a lot of good names on it. Some professional writers, some professional authors, and a few booktubers you'll know. And Open Letters Review, I'm very happy to say, in the last 3 years, has racked up more than its fair share of cover blurbs on books, which is not inconsiderable, considering that that we rebranded ourselves 3 years ago, and it would have been well within expectations to think that we would just drop off the map when that happened. That did not happen. So if you've got a subject that you really like, you're a Civil War wonk, you're big on knitting, a big fan of weather, if you watch this channel at all, then you know that no matter what the subject is, I can almost certainly provide you with a book. And if I can't, I'd be happy to try and get one for you. So if you want to try your hand at reviewing, it's not just that you're howling into the void. I will help you. So I'm at st.donoghue. I'll leave all my information down below. I've got I left a block of information on a couple of videos. Instagram, Twitter, email, even Patreon, so that if enough of you contribute, I no longer have to work grueling days at the box factory. And when I did that a couple of times, quite a few of you emailed and said, yeah, keep doing that. Keep doing that. Even if you're sure we already know it, keep doing it. It's nothing. It's cut and paste. It's a minute's work. Keep doing that. So if I will leave my email down below. If you're interested in trying to review, I would be happy to help. Okay, this next one is Harvard University Press. We saw this already. This is the finished copy of Bitter Reckoning. This is Israel Tries Holocaust Survivors as Nazi Collaborators. This is coming out in October, I think, and I have not read this. Oh no, it's out any day now. Okay, well, it goes on the list then. A lot of these things probably will go right on the list to read. So this is why I leave so much room on my Friday reads, because Friday's mail often makes a mockery of what I'm doing. I need to get to all of these things. Well, not the finance thing. I'll leave that to David Murphy. But the rest of it. Beginning in 1950, the state of Israel prosecuted and jailed dozens of Holocaust survivors who had served as camp capos, or ghetto police, under the Nazis. At last comes the first full account of the capo trials, based on records newly declassified after 40 years. Bit of a sensitive subject, but I'm looking forward to the book. I have absolutely not a single particle of sympathy for the capos themselves. Their standard line of defense, in their own minds, in their memoirs, and also at trial, has been, well, it was that or die. And I know it's very easy for me to say, freshly risen from my sickbed in my comfortable apartment surrounded by books, but my answer to that is, well, then die. Then die. Rather than stuff your own neighbors and friends into delousing chambers that you know perfectly well they're not going to come out of alive, go in with them. That might be easy to say in hindsight, but this book is going to be fascinating. So now we get to the boxes, and the boxes are a normal box, a big box, and an e-freak enormous box. So who knows what we'll find here. The normal box is, oh god, it's oversealed. That's sometimes a bad thing. I've noticed that when things are oversealed, they're often not worth the effort to get into. But let's see if that's the case here. Oh, what is this? What have we got here? Oh, this is another reason why I need to remember to put all my information down below. Yes, okay. Because in addition to everything, in addition to making it easier for the rest of you to find me and bellyache to me or wish me well, it also allows authors to find me. And I encourage you, if you yourself are an indie author, and you've got a book, I encourage you to send it to me. I can't guarantee that I'll review it. I do guarantee that I will read it. And one other thing, which if you know this channel, you will expect it. And some indie authors, not nearly as many as I would expect, but some indie authors are seeing it for the value that it has, which is that in addition to reading your book and happily, getting it, I will also show it when I open it in the mail. That's not a bad thing. My viewers, the regular people who watch this channel, are omnivorous readers and really good, serious, strong readers. They are interested in a whole bunch of stuff. I've lost count of how many times. The comments field will show that people are more interested in book X or Y than I was in book X or Y. In other words, it can't hurt you. If you're out just the postage, it can't hurt you at all to do that. And it looks like that's what's happened here. There are two books here. One, I don't think the author mentioned to me. In his note, he says that it's just a gift. This is The Great Ron Paul, The Scott Horton Show Interviews, 2004 to 2019. There is the interviewer with Ron Paul. Well, okay, that's what it is. It's just transcripts of interviews. How interesting. How interesting. I very much am intrigued by Ron Paul. I'm especially intrigued by how... what's the phrase? The phrase is that he thinks in complete paragraphs, and he also speaks in complete paragraphs, even off the cuff. So these interviews will be fascinating because there won't be any umming and ahhing, there won't be any blatant contradicting. And then there's this this other book, I believe, is the one that the author emailed me about. I don't know if is it new? It is 2019. This is by Sheldon Richman, and it is called Coming to Palestine. Very nice, simple design. What have we got here? Oh no. Okay. Well, the back of the book has excerpts from the foreword and the introduction. It doesn't actually have a blurb telling you what the book is. Let's see what we have here. No. Okay. Well, let's read from them then. This is from the foreword. This book is far more than a deserved celebration of Richmond's intellectual wisdom and astute political and historical analyses throughout the years. It is, first and foremost, a serious and convincing challenge to the protracted Zionist deception and lies that predate the establishment of Israel itself. And the excerpt from the introduction, these are by two different authors. The excerpt from the introduction is, this collection of essays is an essential contribution to understanding Judaism, Zionism, and the continuing conflict in the Middle East. If anyone wonders why Palestine matters, this important book provides an answer. Well, as you've seen on this channel, I read a lot on this subject. Okay, so this is a collection of essays on Palestine. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so those are the two. So that's the box number one. The Great Ron Paul. I'm not sure that he's great. Maybe these interviews will convince me that he is. And Coming to Palestine, a collection of essays by an author who I guess has been writing about the subject for a long time. So that's box number one. Great. Now we do box number two. It is considerably bigger. Still looks small compared to the last one. That sound you hear in the background is PETA attacking this box. When I'm at a desk like this, it's harder to get her on camera. Let's see what we have for this next one. What do we have for this next one? It's just one book. It's a finished copy. Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. We saw this already. I just mentioned this the other day. This is How to Begin the World Over Again. How the American Revolution Devastated the Globe. Great. The American Revolution did not end with an exchange of a sword at Yorktown or a scratch of a pen in Paris. In this book, to be published on October 22nd, Matthew Lockwood shows how the birth of the United States sowed the seeds of collapse for millennia-old civilizations in India, Australia, Africa, China, and the Middle East. In the wake of the world's first truly global conflict, the preeminent empires of the early modern era were fatally undermined, he argues, setting the stage for modern age and global domination by Britain, Russia, and the United States. Most previous books on the American Revolution focus on the 13 colonies, and this book does not, very much does not. And I read and loved it. I can't remember if when I mentioned it recently, and I can't remember if I mentioned it to tell you that it was on my agenda to read or if I just read it, but I thought it was terrific. It's just terrific. Just a table clearing reassessment, just the way you would expect, just the thing you would hope for. Great. Okay, so there's that, and then there is a box from the University of Chicago that is enormous. So I don't. It's enormous, but it's now that I examine it alone, it's curiously light. So it might only be one book. And then with the box itself being huge. But this is so much fun. How could I not do this? Look at that. This is all one sheet of paper. When I get packing like this is all one sheet of paper. It's turned and twisted and flattened into padding material, but I have discovered that if you untwist it and unturn it, it's perforated pages that are page sized. So if you untwist it and you flatten it out, and then you fold it along the perforations so that you have a stack of pages, and then you take that stack of pages and sort of lay it under a very heavy book overnight or for a couple of nights, you have a stack of usable paper when you're done with that. So, no other way to put it. You have a stack of usable paper. So I now do that. Of course I do that. Okay, what have we got here? Oh my. Oh. Okay. All right, it is just one book. But what a book. Oh my. Oh my. Okay. This goes out soon, in a week. This is edited by Nancy Seashoals, and this is an atlas of Boston history. A huge, oversized thing called an atlas of Boston history. There is my beautiful town. Look at that. Few American cities possess a history as long, rich, and fascinating as Boston's. None do. Okay? A site of momentous national political events from the Revolutionary War through the Civil Rights Movement, Boston has also been an influential literary and cultural capital. From ancient glaciers to land-making schemes, modern infrastructure projects, the city's terrain has been transformed almost constantly over the centuries. And this book traces the city's history and geography from the last ice age to the present with beautifully rendered maps. Oh my. Oh my. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. This is I'm stupefied. I will read this right away. I will go through this right now. It sort of looks like sort of an inheritor to the great book Boston, The Topographical History, which is about topography, roads, landfill, and not just about, you know, Crispus Attucks and that sort of thing. And that approach really works. It really does work. Boston is a relatively small town, considering its international acclaim, and it has been constantly changing. There are spots that I could take you to, right within sight of Boston Common, that have changed so drastically, so many times in the last 200 years that it would take me a very long and tedious hour to describe it all to you. as any number of you cancel your Boston vacation plans. This is just fantastic. Okay, well, all right. It's not going to get any better than this. So we have an atlas of Boston history. And we have To Begin the World Over Again, about the American Revolution, which was Boston's revolution. Then we have Coming to Palestine by Sheldon Richman, a series of essays on Israel, Palestine, Zionism, and The Great Ron Paul, a collection of interviews that he's given over the years. Then Bitter Reckoning, about Israel putting on trial Jews who collaborated with the Nazis. The Great Reversal, about Americans giving up on free markets. That will go out to the upper Midwest. And The Demon in the Machine, how hidden webs of information are solving the mystery of life. Not bad. Not bad at all. Very box-heavy mail haul, but I couldn't not share it with you. So I'm gonna go now. This has gone on way too long. I'm gonna go now and play with Frida. She's having all the fun in the world with that box, and why should she have all the fun when I can get on the floor and join her? So I'm gonna do that, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.